Tales of Estolia. Volume 1. The Promise of Zacharias. Part 5. According to Prophecy. Chapter 12. Acceptance. In Estolian law, each person is constructed from a trio of components. The first is the body, that receptacle for all that we are, the only element that will eventually perish. The other two are eternal. The self is the seat of identity, the repository of intellect, the storage vault for memories, and the structure of character and personality. The soul is the ephemeral, spiritual conduit to deity. One cannot live without a soul. Taken together, these three elements are essential for each individual's travels on the pathway to horizon, eternity, and a glorious immortality. Dominic Zakarian. Forward, Shades of Crimson. Callista woke feeling tremendous. She stretched in an excess of physical and mental well-being, and then came down to earth with a thump. She felt the warmth of a human body next to her own. She was in the arms of her enigmatic neighbor, a man she had barely met, and whom she had allowed to access her body. Her behavior was inexplicable. She rolled over to look at him, afraid she would see indifference and impatience to be gone. His expression was warm and proprietorial. He smiled. "It is to be hoped that your sleep was refreshing." She could feel the heat of a blush and looked away from him. "I've never done anything like this before. I could tell you were a virgin, a gift received with pleasure so exquisite, there are no words in your language or in mine to express it adequately. A memory I shall treasure every day of my life." She wondered if that was his quaint way of telling her the memory was all he expected to get out of it. She was bereft at the thought that this was his flowery way of saying goodbye. His hand settled over her abdomen. "I believe the conception of our first child could not be any more momentous or memorable. In truth, I consider the pleasure and extraordinary fulfillment of our union to be a most convincing sign that our lives will be fully blessed." She had trouble following his convoluted method of speaking. "Come, we must dress if we are to leave for Estolia." "Estolia!" she exclaimed. "Where is Estolia?" "Estolia is my homeland. It is one of the Balearic Islands south of Barcelona." "Barcelona? Spain? As in Europe?" "I can't go to Europe." "You do, after all, have a boyfriend from whom you cannot bear to be parted?" he asked, his voice clipped and no longer lover-like. "Of course not. It's just that it seems a bit crazy to travel to a foreign country at a moment's notice. I can't afford to fly to Europe." He already stated his need to return to his country. She now worried that he might want to move on with his life and forget her. Just thinking about it was physically painful. "The King of Estolia has sent his personal jet to fetch me back. The flight crew will wait until we are ready to depart." However, he looked at her steadily as he added, "I should not like to be the one to explain our tardiness to the king. I refuse to return to Estolia without you." One of the flight attendants approached Leon to tell him that they would be landing within the hour. He thanked her when she added, "The outfit is ready." When they boarded the Estolian jet, the dressmaker took Callista's measurements so she could create the perfect dress. Callista deserved to look and feel like a princess. His princess, the keeper of his soul, his Kaylee, literally as necessary to him as oxygen. His slacks grew uncomfortable. At the constraining tightness, he tried to shift his thoughts away from the memory of her body wrapped tightly around him, her voice raised in a pleasure that punctuated his own. He closed his eyes and recited the 12 postulates of inner peace, grateful he'd been made to memorize them during his acolyte year. His brother was receptive to the will of deity. More than a year ago he knew that she would be right for him. Nico sent him to live in Phoenix, sent the package to make sure they met, and had sent not only the jet, but also the dressmaker so that her arrival would be all that she deserved. Should she accept his wild suggestion and travel to a country she'd never heard of, with a man she didn't know a day ago? "Callista," he said, his voice persuasive, "I meant it when I proposed to you earlier." His thumb rubbed over the ring on her finger. "I knew the moment I gave you this ring that there was no doubt we were meant to be together. Having consummated our union and in so doing declared before deity that our souls are inextricably attached, the one to the other, we must marry. It is considered a grievous sin for any man of Estolia to take the purity of a woman and not marry her. The punishment is death. It is the worst of all crimes. I must present you to the king and keeper, our highest religious leader, gain their approval, and unite our futures permanently. He climbed out of bed, and then pulled her upright, and into his arms. Come, if we leave within the hour we will arrive by dawn. He kissed her, his lips persuasive, pulling a response from the depth of her soul. She agreed to his urging that they visit Estolia. Less than an hour later they were pulling up at a private airfield. She was apprehensive at the thought of leaving Arizona and traveling to some foreign country. At the same time, thinking about separating from this man brought her physical pain. Perhaps this wasn't a wise choice, but she felt as if it was the only one available to her.